This is an Icon Ministry production with the support of our ministry partners and donors.
We celebrate a big feast, the Feast of Christ the King, a time where we imagine Christ as being venerated, honored as king. You think of any king, you think of dignity, right? You think of a crown, you think of someone on a throne. But the way Jesus is portrayed today as Christ the King is a messy way. He's on the cross, he's bleeding to death, and he's having a conversation with two thieves. How is that Christ the King? How is that victorious? Because this is what Christ the King is about. It's about victory. But victory is often messy, right? Victory doesn't always look like victory. I was at a wedding just a couple of days ago, and I was having a conversation with a father who has a few, I think 6 or 7 young children. And they go to Mass every Sunday. But as you can imagine, it is a war zone getting the children ready for Mass. As they're getting ready for Mass, they are getting their clothes, they're dragged out of bed, they're grumpy, they eventually start dressing, but they start fighting for clothes, they start fighting for attention, they're pulling each other's hair, they're shouting at each other, and even by the time they get to the car, they're thrown into the car, put seatbelts on, and they're screaming and crying, and they want their iPads, and they want this, and they want that, and there's screaming to the point where they're thinking, how are we going to do this? We're going to get to Mass. Eventually, they come to the car park, and the father turns around and says, okay, from this point on, now we're going into Mass, and we have to give Jesus the dignity he deserves. He raises his voice, a bit of an alpha right there. They calm down, and one by one, they walk out of the car, and they know that Mass is a time where they are to give dignity and honor. All the 6 children are walking in with the father and the mother, and they look like angels. Everything looks perfect. In fact, after Mass, often the parishioners, the grandmas and grandpas say, what angels you have, how beautiful your children are. They're perfectly behaved. And the father and the mother are thinking in their heart, you should have seen them 5 minutes before Mass, pulling each other's hair out. It looks dignified here, but it was so messy to get them to Jesus. This is how life is. Life is messy. I wish being a Christian, I wish following Jesus, I wish making Christ the King was easy. But the reality is, it is messy. It is difficult. There are times we're going to fail. There are times we're thinking, what is the point of this? Because everything seems to be going wrong. But keep going. Keep there. Because God doesn't expect things to be perfect. Jesus himself showed this upon the cross. Christ the King was shown as a time when there was blood, there was mess, and there was simple conversation. And even opposition, right? One of the thieves was just making fun of Jesus. But there is victory. There is victory when we persevere, when we put Jesus within our families, within ourselves, within the world around us as Christ the King.
This production is only made possible because of the generous support of Icon Ministry partners and donors. Please go to iconministry.com/support to make a donation.